Welcome back, everybody. It is week 11, and we're going to be highlighting some of my favorite starts and sits of the week at every single position. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Starting it off, we got Dak Prescott here. He is my favorite quarterback play of the week. I know that the past 2 weeks have not been great, but he has been a victim of just kind of some negative matchups against Denver on the road, as well as the Cardinals. And what these two teams have in common, they get after the quarterback. So once the Dallas offensive line kind of folds, Dak is left with nothing and really struggles. However, this week against the Raiders is a great bounce back spot for him. As we can see, he had 4 matchups straight being a top 10 quarterback in fantasy. I don't see why any change, especially in this plus matchup in Las Vegas. I know it's going to be a very emotional game for Dallas. I'd expect them to bring their best stuff. And Vegas tends to agree. The Dallas defense is not getting any better, so the over-under set at 50.5 is absolutely gorgeous. Dallas in recent weeks has ranked number 1 in pace of play. I think they are 3rd overall in the season. But they're definitely having to speed up because teams are just scoring at an alarming rate on them. So they're always going to be playing catch up. I think in this game against the Raiders, you're going to see probably a 3 or 4 touchdown game from Dak Prescott, a motivated Dak Prescott, that is. And some quarterbacks that I have below him, obviously Matt Stafford has been slinging it. However, against Seattle, I'm not the biggest fan. So I would play Dak over him, Baker, and Sam Darnold in that same matchup. And he currently slots in for me in Week 11 as my QB9. Moving on to the running back position, we got Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is one of my favorite starts this week solely because of his productivity. Kevin O'Connell said they want to keep getting him more and more involved, and I absolutely believe him. He has looked very explosive on the ground, and I know we all wanted the Jordan Mason breakout, but he has looked very sluggish in the past few weeks. And this might not be just due to Jordan Mason. I think it's a lot of the inside zone just isn't working. When they tailor their offense towards speed on the outsides, it's really working. I think they'll favor this in the matchup against the Bears, who rank so bad against the run. And Aaron Jones is probably a candidate for over 15-plus touches this week. He's not going to be a complete bell cow, but in this past week, 71% of snaps is absolutely gorgeous. Hamstring injury, obviously, linger. Kind of high risk, but he's been continuing to battle through it, and the uptick in snaps is not going to cease to continue, and he ranks 10th in fantasy points per opportunity. I think this is just a measuring of how productive he's been over the course of the season. Despite limited touches, he's making the most of his opportunities. And some of the running backs I have below him are Woody Marks, even in this great matchup against Tennessee, Ken Walker, obviously, and then Rachaad White with the emergence of Sean Tucker. And in Week 11, he slots in to be my RB20. Next up, we got another running back here coming out of the New York Giants. We got Tyrone Tracy. A lot of people were disappointed after spending all of their waiver budget on him as the number 1 priority. However, don't fear. The Jameis Winston effect is here. As well as the uptick in usage here, 67% of the snaps in Week 10. Singletary was involved, but this team really leaned on Tyrone Tracy. I think new play caller, obviously, with no Dable. I'd expect them to trust the sturdy running back who got it done for them all last year, which kind of gives him a high PPR floor with Jameis. I know this offense is going to move the ball if that's one thing. Whether it's a pick six and getting the ball right back or just driving down the whole field. That's why us fantasy guys love Jameis. Some of the running backs I have below him would be David Montgomery, Charbonnet, and Spears. So all these committee running backs I have below him just solely because I think Tracy's going to get a big workload this week. I think he's only plus 120 to score a touchdown this week. They are very bullish on him, and I think you should be as well. Against the Packers, who, yes, they have a vaunted defense, but the one weak spot has been the run game. Obviously, Rico Dowdle torched them 2 weeks ago, and I don't see any reason why Tracy can't do a similar fashion and the Giants to kind of keep it close here and Tracy be a quality start. Moving on to the wide receivers here, we got Jameson Williams, otherwise known as JMO. JMO has continued to shine in recent weeks. I know was labeled as a major bust here in draft season, but he has really turned it on, and some of that's due to the Dan Campbell play calling. Obviously, he was fired up on the sidelines calling the plays for JMO. He basically drove them down the whole field that entire drive. And I really think there's a vision here for him to be a league winner. I know he's probably not on the roster that drafted him. You probably moved on from him. But whoever has him is a lucky person because he is really starting to heat up. And just some data points, he ranks 10th amongst wide receivers in ADOT, so average distance of target. So he's obviously stretching the field. That's what he was brought in to do. They signed him to a huge extension. They're going to take shots to him. I'm not sure why they didn't do this earlier in the season, but this offense looks a whole lot better when they do it. So I don't think they'll kind of move away from it, and you'll see a strong game. Despite going against this vaunted Eagles secondary, I think you'd expect that Quinion Mitchell is going to shadow Amon-Ra, even though he's in the slot. So I would expect them to target JMO a lot more in this game. Do I think it's going to be very high scoring? No, but I do expect them to manufacture touches for Jameson Williams. And some of the wide receivers I have below him, Romeo Doubs, Jordan Addison, and Quentin Johnston. So amongst the other high-tier wide receiver twos, I do like JMO a whole lot more. I think he's more talented, in a better offense, and probably has the highest floor going forward out of all three of those wide receivers. And for Week 11, he ranks in as my wide receiver 25. On to the tight end position. I know it's hard to find starts here, especially in Week 11, but we got Dalton Schultz. So he has been the man on the mission in the recent 2 weeks here. He's averaging 9.5 targets with Mills as the quarterback. CJ Stroud obviously missing another game. So it is going to be Davis Mills, and he has loved to pepper him with targets, especially in the red zone. I know they haven't connected a whole lot, but that is where he's kind of trying to look for Dalton Schultz. So I would expect them to maybe get 2 or 3 red zone opportunities here. I like the Texans in this game. They're going to be controlling the pace. You would expect them to beat the Titans and beat them handily. So I think there's a safe floor for Dalton Schultz. This offense is going to be able to move the ball rather easily against the Titans. So I would be quite bullish here. I would be picking him up, playing him over specific tight end options such as Harold Fannin, Kyle Pitts, or Colson Loveland. I think he's got the highest floor and also the highest ceiling here. Which tight ends are giving you tight end 7, tight end 4 finishes in the past 2 weeks here with Davis Mills? So I would continue to ride the hot hand here with Dalton Schultz. I know it doesn't look pretty, but he is a smash start this week. Now, unfortunately, onto the sits of the week here. So some of the players that I don't like starting at all. And starting it off here, we got Jared Goff as my quarterback that I don't love playing. I know I just gave you JMO as a must start, but Goff on the road is a recipe for disaster. I do think he'll throw for enough yards to kind of give safe production to the wide receivers in Laporta. However, the Eagles rank 6th against fantasy quarterbacks. I'd expect this to be kind of a low-scoring slugfest here, especially with the way Philly's offense has been very stagnant. They're leaning on their defense. I think both teams will lean on the run game to start the game. Obviously, primetime games, they tend to always finish lower than their totals. And this being on the road, Goff historically is much, much, much better on home soil. They're in Detroit, so another factor to kind of leave him on the bench. I think Jared Goff is a very predictable fantasy quarterback in spots to start and spots to sit. This is a sit spot for me. Obviously, last week I was telling you guys to start him against Washington in a plus matchup. However, I think this is going to be a very gritty game here. A lot of kind of 3-and-outs, defensive plays. And some of the quarterbacks that I would rather have for more than Goff in Week 11 are Baker Mayfield, Joe Flacco actually against the Steelers in that potential shootout, as well as Caleb Williams. And he slots in for me in Week 11 as my QB 11. For another running back that I'm sitting in week 11 is going to be RJ Harvey. I know people are waiting on the breakout. We just saw Travion Henderson go for 3 touchdowns, and you want the same out of RJ Harvey. Unfortunately, Sean Payton's not going to give that to us. He's going to give us a gross committee here with multiple running backs in the backfield. This will not be kind of the 20-touch game that you're looking for. And a must-win spot in the top of the division against the Chiefs, I'd expect him to lean on the veterans and really just sprinkle in RJ Harvey as they've been doing. I'd expect maybe like 7 or 8 touches on the ground and maybe a few receptions, but that's not worthy of a top-tier play, especially against this Chiefs run defense. They've been extremely solid against the run, as well as kind of protecting running backs out of the pass game. So they've done a great job against that, and I wouldn't expect much out of RJ Harvey in this matchup. As we can see here, the snap counts, he never really eclipses 30% of snaps. I do think he'll maybe hit like 40-45% of snaps here with no Dobbins, but I can't see in a world where he is a 60 or 70% snap guy, at least in this week where Sean Payton knows he needs to trust his guys. They need this win in order to get a stranglehold on the AFC West. So some running backs that I'm playing over him might surprise you, but I'm actually playing Kareem Hunt over him in the same game, as well as Tyrone Tracy I mentioned earlier, and DeAndre Swift. On to the wide receiver that I am done playing with in fantasy football until proven otherwise is going to be Keenan Allen. So in Week 11, obviously they get the Jaguars. It is a projected low-scoring game here. The total is only at 43.5. I expect this to be a gross, kind of clunky offensive game from both sides, but his efficiency just continues to decline. He was one of my trade-away candidates after Week 5, and he has really plummeted down the rankings going forward. Ladd has stepped up, Quentin Johnston stepped up, Gadsden stepped up. There's just not enough volume in this passing pie to accumulate for Keenan Allen, unfortunately. He is kind of the safe third down option, which makes sense for them in real life, but if you're playing him in fantasy, you're going to be very, very disappointed. Only 15 targets in the last 3 games. That's just not going to cut it for a guy you're lining up in your wide receiver 2 or flex position. So I would definitely try and pivot away from Keenan Allen. Maybe some other high upside options here like DK Metcalf, Wandale, or Dobbs. I especially like Wandale over him, especially with Jameis. But Keenan Allen in a position where he's only playing, 25, 37, 51% of snaps, it's just not going to cut it for a top-tier wide receiver. And if you could pivot away, whether it's trading or kind of cutting him, I'm not opposed to it because I think the writing is on the wall for Keenan Allen for 2025. Our next wide receiver that I'm sitting is going to be Romeo Doubs. This offense just looked abysmal. I would expect them to lean on Josh Jacobs heavily. They need this win against the Giants, and they know Jameis can put up a ton of points. I expect them to lean on the ground game and win with their defense. Doubs has also missed some of practice this week with the chest injury. He's currently banged up. And you know who's not banged up or getting back is Christian Watson has looked fantastic returning from surgery. So he's continuing to get more and more involved. As well as Matthew Golden is going to be coming back to the lineup. And I think this is just more crowded wide receiver room than you're used to in Green Bay. Especially with the potential return of Jaden Reed as well. I think if you could sell high on Romeo Doubs, I would, but especially in Week 11 here, I'm not expecting a whole lot from him. Only 1.5 points against Philly. This isn't a guy that the Packers really feel like they have to target every single drive. He's not an alpha wide receiver, and he's not a field stretcher like Christian Watson is. So I'd expect a very kind of safe floor, but not much of a ceiling unless he finds the end zone. But I expect this game to be very low scoring, and so does Vegas here with only a 42.5 implied point total in the game. So some of the wide receivers I would have over him, Wandale I mentioned, as well as Juwan Jennings. Despite Ricky Pearsall being back, I think he'll be limited. You can definitely get some Jennings action with his new quarterback, Brock Purdy, who loves targeting him, as well as Devontae Smith. And his rank for me in Week 11 is wide receiver 23. Our last sit here of the week is tight end Mark Andrews. If you've been playing him, you've gotten extremely lucky, and touchdown regression is coming, I promise. He can't keep scoring 1 touchdown or 2 touchdowns every single week. Isaiah Likely continues to get more involved, and I'd expect Lamar to find other people in the end zone for once here. Only 1 game above 35 receiving yards, so if he doesn't get in the end zone, you're pretty much screwed. So I think I would get off the train right now before it explodes, because I don't think Mark Andrews is going to have a good game, especially in a game where the Ravens probably won't have to throw the ball. I'd expect them to lean on Derrick Henry. They're going to be up probably double digits before you even bat an eye at 1:30 p.m. Obviously, just like in the first quarter, they're going to be dominating this game. So I would not expect much out of Mark Andrews. They're probably going to tailor this offense more to Isaiah Likely down the stretch here. So I would definitely have Harold Fannin above him in the same game. Obviously, the youth with the high potential, high upside with Gabriel. Same thing goes with Colston Loveland, who I have above him, a rookie with immense upside, and Cade Otton, who has designed targets in a must-win matchup against Buffalo. So I would be sitting him almost everywhere with any other option that you have, even on the waiver wire. And he comes in as my Week 11 tight end 13. Those are all the start sits that I have for this week. We tried to go through every single position, highlighting positional strengths and matchups. So if there's anything else, start sit questions that you have, please drop them in the comments below. And if not, please subscribe if you can, and have a great Week 11.